We're at night 2 of SummerSlam and we kick off the show with a bang. Lyra Valkyria is here, and she's here to dethrone the Women's Intercontinental Champion Becky Lynch. But can she get the job done? Well, the match is on, and both women charge at one another before dueling like there's no tomorrow. But eventually, Lyra overwhelms Becky, staggering her long enough for her to attempt an early Nightwing. Yet the man slips out of it and manages to connect a manhandle slam. But the Bird Lady kicks out, so Big Time Bex goes to the outside and grabs a shovel. She wants to quite literally bury Lyra Valkyria. Yet the challenger is able to wrestle the weapon off her and smack her down with it. And after another smack to the face, she puts the shovel down, and then she hurls the champion to the outside, as of course she follows, using her own feet as a battering ram, which works wonders. And with a Russian leg sweep into the barricade, she sends Bex into the ring, although before following her, she goes under the ring and grabs a table, which gets set up almost immediately after this. But this gave Becky enough time to recuperate as she spears Lyra through the table. Then she gets manhandle slammed onto the barricade as well, before Becky grabs another table as she puts it into the ring. And after being launched into the ring post and steel steps, Bex grabs a third table and sets it up on the ramp. Then she tries to put her through it, failing miserably as Lyra gets back on top, and after hurling Becky over the table, she is then the one who attempts to put Big Time Bex through it. Yet she counters with a beautiful uppercut. And from here, for the second time in the match, Lyra Valkyria is put through a table. But she wants to make it a trifecta as she puts Lyra into the ring and sets up the table once again on the outside. Yet as she goes into the ring, karma comes and bites her in the arse, with her now being the one put through the table. And now that both women are back into the ring, Lyra smashes Becky with a table in the face before deadlifting her up and planting her with a gut-wrench powerbomb. Becky Lynch's reign could be over, though it can last a little longer as she survives. So Lyra goes to the top rope looking for a frog splash, yet all she can find is a second manhandle slam out of nowhere. But Lyra is seemingly immune to the move as she is able to kick out again. So Becky calls for the Bird Lady to get up for just one more, although that is nowhere to be found as Lyra counters and connects the Nightwing. Yet even her best shot isn't enough to put Becky Lynch down. So she grabs the shovel and just beats it into Becky until she gets an idea, dropping the weapon in favour of something all too familiar with this match, a table. As with it set up, she puts Becky onto the top rope and with all the energy she has left, connects an avalanche Nightwing through the table. And of course, that keeps Becky Lynch down for the 3. Lyra Valkyria has done it. She has vanquished the demon of Becky Lynch and has restored honour to the Women's Intercontinental Championship. And on top of that, she is the first ever 2-time Women's Midcard Champion in WWE. It's a huge moment for her, although the celebrations get cut short when Bayley comes out of nowhere and drops her with a rose plant. Then she grabs the title and just waits. And once Lyra crawls her way to her feet, she gets blasted with a title shot to the skull. Bayley has betrayed Lyra, and she has shown her true colours. The hatred burns brighter than ever, and Lyra Valkyria wants some vengeance. But how do we follow this? Well, it's time for a match that should have taken place on night 1, though due to Drew McIntyre's outburst, it wasn't to be. But who has Logan Paul chosen as his new partner? Well, it's none other than Carmelo Hayes. This is a big spot for him, as when the match begins, the Maverick immediately tags out to him. He wants none of Randy Orton, yet Melo wants all of the Viper, as he demands for him to bring it, which the legend of course does. pounding him with punches until he takes Mel to the outside and back suplexes him onto a barricade. Yet Logan Paul then distracts him long enough for Mel to get back on top, sending the Viper into the exact same barricade. And after putting him into the ring, he chucks him into the corner as Logan finally enters the match, with the two Irish ripping Orton, who hangs onto the ropes, before sending Mello out of the ring and subsequently battering Logan Paul. But as Mello looks to get back into the match, he gets met by the three most dangerous letters in sports entertainment. Yet the Maverick then attempts to roll him up, which fails, and as both men get up, Paul gets hit with a RKO as well. Then he tags in Jelly Roll, who not only chokeslams the YouTuber, but he also pulls out a moonsault out of nowhere as well, which keeps Logan down for the free. Randy Orton and Jelly Roll pick up the quick win. It's a feel-good moment for the pair, and there's no Drew McIntyre in sight, as the celebrity and the future Hall of Famer stand tall. So what's next for Randy and Drew? Well, before we find out, it's time for some absolute carnage, as 12 men, 6 teams compete under TLC, 25 years after the first was done. Can they top that magic? Well, naturally, the match is utter chaos, there's bodies everywhere, but eventually, each man gets taken out of the match, which starts off late in the match with the champions, as every single member of the Wyatt Six aren't safe, as after Joe Gacy and Dexter Lewis are put through tables, so are Eric Rowan, Uncle Howdy, and even Candice LeRae puts Nikki Cross through one as well, ultimately leading to her and B-Fam brawling to the back. Now there's only 5 teams left standing, and DIY makes that 4, as after super kicking Chris Sabin, Johnny Gargano powerbombs Chris onto a ladder on the outside. And as soon as this happens, Tommaso Ciampa fairy tale endings Alex Shelley onto a ladder as well. Though now, Fraxium come to the aid of their friends, as of Axiom Spanish flying Johnny Gargano through one more table, Nathan Frazier Phoenix splashes Tommaso Ciampa on the outside of the ring. But as this is happening, we see Rey Fenix and Andrade take out the Street Profits on the ramp. As now, only 2 teams are left standing, and it's looking like a dynamic duo. Phoenix and Andrade may be able to win, though as they climb their ladders, Fraxium join them for one final duel. And it's looking like it could swing either way, they're both so incredibly even, but then Phoenix gives Andrade one final shot by taking himself and Axiom out of contention of the match. Now only 2 men are left, Andrade and Nathan Frazier, and Andrade manages to knock off Frazier, or so you think, as Seth Rollins Jr. beautifully springboards from being fallen back onto a ladder, as if Andrade being startled by this, he gets knocked down. And now that everyone else is down, Nathan Frazier reaches to his and Axiom's destiny. As with that, Fraxium are the new WWE Tag Team Champions. It's the biggest moment of both men's careers, and now they are the top dogs of arguably the best tag team division in the world. But before the next match, we see something unannounced. Julia is here, and she's pissed off, demanding respect after being left off SummerSlam and after barely getting any TV time as the champ, which brings out Zelina Vega, with the two engaging in a wild brawl that only stops when Julia manages to plant the former Women's United States Champion with a Northern Lights bomb on the concrete floor. And as she walks to the back, after a mic gets cut off, she gets confronted by a competitor in the next match, as Stephanie Vaquer stands face to face to her past rival. Though she lets her past, as Vaquer teams with Nikki Bella and none other than the returning Brie Bella to take on all 3 members of the Secret Service. And Stephanie Vaquer starts things off with Piper Niven, as the two lock up, though Piper breaks it off and looks for a headbutt, which gets blocked. as Vaquer looks for a super kick, which is caught by the special intelligence of Chelsea Green, yet Vaquer attempts to get out of her grasp, which ultimately fails, as Vaquer gets bulldozed by Niven. Although after an overnight suplex, La Primera kicks back and kicks Niven down as well. Then she goes to grab the ropes, giving Niven enough time to recover, as she's able to connect with an elbow and brutal clothesline. Then she hurls her into the corner, tagging in Chelsea Green, with her double axe handling La Primera, alongside attempting to take her down, finally succeeding with the knee, as she quickly tags out to Alba Fire, who tries to stop Stephanie from tagging into either of the Bellas, which fails only temporarily, as Alba just starts to scratch Stephanie while on her back, and once she gets off, she super kicks her down. But this doesn't keep her down for the free, as she kicks out. So Alba just boot washes Stephanie, showboating as she does it, and once she's done, she connects a front suplex before trying to grab her. Yet Vaquer knees back, although there's no follow-up, as Alba is able to take her down, forcing Stephanie's head down to the mat several times. And even if Vaquer attempts to fight back, the result is inevitable, as she gets forearmed down. Then she lights her up with a flurry of high kicks, before tagging in Chelsea Green, who just punches Stephanie in the stomach, before throwing her back into the corner, tagging in Piper Niven, with the two nailing a simple but effective double back suplex. But Vaquer survives, yet she's not thriving, as she gets powerbombed into the canvas before just driving her head into the exact same canvas. And with a headbutt to the back of the skull, Piper tags in Chelsea Green, with the two connecting another simple double team move. This time, it being a double clothesline, which to the behest of Green yields the same result. But as she attempts to grab Stephanie Vaquer, she fights back, even being able to drop Chelsea with a super kick. Yet before she can tag in one of the Bellas, she does none other than the Devil's Kiss, and once she's done, she goes for the tag. But Nikki and Brie Bella jump off the apron. They've just abandoned Stephanie as they just walk away from the match, leaving La Primera in a 3-on-1 handicap match situation, but she fights on regardless, even if the numbers game naturally overwhelms her. Yet she sticks in the fight no matter what gets thrown at her, although she's being dominated by the Secret Service. That is until Stephanie Vaquer is able to reverse a powerbomb with a trio of punches, as from here, it's all things La Primera, as after taking down all three women, she SVBs the leader of the Green Regime, Chelsea Green. Then she goes to the top rope, looking for a corkscrew moonsault, although all she can find is the Women's World Champion, who pushes her down whilst the referee was distracted. And with this comes opportunity, as Piper Niven tags herself back into the match, and Michinoku driver Stephanie Vaquer. Then Alba Fire gets tagged in, who ascends to the heavens and crash lands to earth on La Primera with a big swanton bomb. And to complete the trifecta, Chelsea Green stumbles into the match and connects the unpretty her onto the motionless opponent, picking up the pinfall win over the future contender to Naomi's Women's World Championship. It's a huge win for the Secret Service, yet they may have only won because of the Bella Twins' lack of involvement. But would this have been the case? Well, before we find out, it's time to find out who will say the words, "I'm a liar," in the I Quit match between Karrion Kross and Sami Zayn. As the match is on, and the killer immediately hurls the underdog to the outside with a belly-to-belly suplex, yet Zayn holds on for dear life, and he pushes Kross back as he ascends to the heavens and crossbodies the killer. Then Sami sends him to the outside, and soon follows, connecting a big DDT onto the concrete floor. But Sami's only just started, as when Karrion gets up, he's met by a suicide dive, yet he won't stay down, so Sami nails another dive onto him, and after hurling him into the barricade, Zayn looks for a moonsault off the barricade, which Kross avoids, before getting on top of his opponent and forearming him in the back of the head twice. And once he's done, he asks if Sami wants to admit that he was a liar, which he of course refuses. so Cross just knees him back down, although Zayn kicks back, setting him into the barricade one more time. Then he just drags Cross up the ramp, and with him in position, he looks to suplex the killer onto the concrete floor. But he escapes his grasp, subsequently hurling him up the ramp, and from here, he just mauls at Sami, grounding and pounding him until he relents, as beating him is not his task, as he asks again if Sami wants to admit it, which he denies. So he just roundhouse kicks the underdog before throwing him into the ring and nailing a Doomsday Sayudo suplex. And then he applies the Cross jacket, demanding for Zayn to give up, which he doesn't, though at the same time he can't escape the hold as he passes out. But that isn't an admission of guilt, so the match continues, with Cross retrieving the baseball bat. And now that the weapons are involved, it's all things Cross, as he just swings the bat into Zayn's gut over and over again. Yet no matter how many times that bat gets swung, Zayn just won't quit, and eventually he fights the bat off Cross before nailing back-to-back clotheslines alongside his pop-up dropkick. He's fighting with everything he has left, as he then turns his attention to the bat, picking it up and smashing it into Cross. But he doesn't stop, he just swings it endlessly at his rival. That is, until he realises what he's done, the damage he's caused, the people he's hurt. Maybe, just maybe, carrying Cross was right. And once he gets to his feet, Sami says the words, "I'm a liar." And naturally, Cross loves this. He's won, and he's showboating that he was right in front of Sami's face. And eventually, Sami just smacks him in the face with the bat before putting him in the corner and connecting a haluva kick. And with that, he walks away a changed man. He realises his flaws, but the question is, can he overcome them? Or will them demons be what ultimately creates a monster? Well, before we find out, it's time for the United States Championship Steel Cage match between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. But before the match can officially begin, we see backstage footage of a downed Tonga Loa, JC Mateo, and even Tala Tonga. There's going to be no shenanigans whatsoever, and Solo is terrified of this as he begs Jacob off, which of course doesn't work, as Jacob batters his own family, including a multitude of headbutts in the corner alongside a knee. And the headbutts continue to rain down on Solo, as once Jacob is done, he Irish whips the champ into the steel cage itself. Then Jacob picks him up powerbomb style, and once again uses the steel cage to his advantage, along with just powerbombing Solo back down to reality. And Fatu uses the steel again, with him just launching Sikoa into it. Then he does this again, though it's Solo's head that gets bounced off the steel. And after one more time using the steel to Jacob Fatu's advantage, he just nails a pop-up Samoan drop onto the champion. And he then sends Solo into the corner, taking him down as he looks for the running hip attack, and he finds it. Jacob is completely manhandling Solo, though as he goes for the double spring moonsault, the champ manages to evade it and quickly grabs Jacob by the throat to connect a Samoan spike. Yet Jacob Fatu kicks out, so Solo just tries to escape, and he nearly does, but Jacob is up and meets him at the top of the structure. It's a precarious position for both men to be in, and ultimately it's Solo who falls, being pushed back into the ring. Though Jacob follows as he splashes a man he used to love. As with that, we have a new United States Champion. Jacob Fatu is now Mr. Two-Time. He has regained the title. But what's next? Well, before the Vision's tag team match, we see backstage Bron Breakker walking past Penta, along with Bronson Reed walking past LA Knight. Will they get involved in the match? Well, with all the stars making their entrance, this match is underway. and Braun Breaker immediately looks for a spear onto Jey Uso, who manages to counter it as he attempts one of his own, which gets blocked all the same. And after a quick cheap shot of Roman, Braun manhandles Jey across the ring, though he knees back, sending Braun out of the ring and quickly diving onto him, which gets met by a thunderous spear out of nowhere. Jey Uso has just been crushed, but Braun can't get the job done early as Jey kicks out. So Braun tags in Bronson, who just bulldozes his way through Jey like he was nothing. And after a back suplex, Reed looks for an early tsunami, although Jey is able to avoid it and is quickly able to tag in Roman Reigns. And he steps up to Big Bronson Reed as after a fierce stare down, the two begin to just fight. But it's incredibly even, each man has a counter for the other. Then both men stand stern, until Braun Breaker asks for the tag, which Reed obliges to, as we get a stare down for the ages, which gets interrupted by Paul Heyman, who allows for Braun to get the jump on Roman, and he feasts like a big dog, munching on his prey. He even connects a gorilla press slam, though Reigns survives, which merely means that the feast can continue, as Braun clobbers Roman in the back of the head twice before tagging out to Bronson Reed, who just crushes the OTC, which Paul Heyman absolutely loves. Though what he doesn't love is LA Knight coming out merely to send the Oracle to the back. He wants this to be a fair fight, as he subsequently leaves the four larger-than-life athletes to do battle. And Roman is still being dominated by Bronson, as the big man just continues manhandling the OTC. That is until he tags back in Braun Breaker, who just kicks Roman in the gut, which is quickly followed up by a simple scoop slam and an effective taunt. But this fires up Reigns, who kicks back and big boots Braun down, allowing for Jey Uso to get the tag. And he's completely overwhelming Braun. That is until Braun effortlessly counters Jey with a big slam. And after a $1 million punch right in the nose and an elbow to the forehead, he goes for a standing moonsault, which Jey escapes out of, although all this can get him is being slammed right back down. Then Braun decides to go and grab a steel chair placed by the Oracle. He just wants to hurt Jey, but that's when Penta comes out of nowhere and takes it off him, as he too, just like Knight, wants this match to be fair. Though he gets speared for this transgression, yet as Braun gets back into the ring, he gets met by a Jey Uso spear, and this gives Jey enough time to tag out to Roman Reigns, whilst Braun tags out to Bronson Reed. And it's now Roman who's able to get on top of Bronson, even managing to connect a very impressive Uranagi. Then he looks for the Superman punch, which lands, as he then lines up the big man for a spear, yet Braun Breaker comes out of nowhere and spears the big dog before quickly spearing Jey to the outside. This is Bronson Reed's opportunity, and he seizes it, ascending to the heavens and tsunamiing Roman Reigns before allowing Braun Breaker to hit one more spear for him to pick up the win in arguably the biggest win of his career. Both Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed look like $1 million, all at the expense of two former World Heavyweight Champions. But now, it's time for the ultimate main event of the evening, as it's time for Cody Rhodes to get one more chance at taking down John Cena. But can he get the job done? Or will Big Match John retain? While the match is on, and Cena immediately goes to the outside. Yeah, that was just so he could grab a kendo stick. And once he gets back into the ring, he demands for the American Nightmare to bring it. Which he doesn't, as he goes to the outside and grabs a sledgehammer before re-entering the ring. Now it's him who demands Cena to bring it, as both men go to the center of the ring and swing their weapons, with the sledgehammer beating the kendo stick. But Cody is a man of diversity, as he grabs Cena's weapon and smacks it in his face, making him gush blood. And Cody just relishes in it, beating the kendo stick into Cena until it eventually snaps. And with that, Cena rolls to the outside. Then Rhodes looks for a dive, although Cena is able to keep a hold of him and plant him through the announcer's table with an AA. And naturally, Cena attempts to get the pinfall win as soon as possible, though Cody Rhodes kicks out at 2. So Cena looks for another AA, yet Rhodes escapes his grasp before landing him up and connecting across Rhodes, and he scurries into the cover, thinking that may be it. Though he thought wrong, as Cena survives. So after a quick kick to the nuts, he picks back up the sledgehammer, yet Cena is able to take back control and sends Cody out of the ring. Then he decides to go high risk, which gets him no reward, as Cody catches him and power bombs him on the remaining announcer's table. And after being held into the barricade, Cody decides to redecorate. And once he's done, he grabs the steel steps and smashes them into Cena's face and plants them on top of him. Then he just grabs him and puts him on the announcer's table before joining him. Yet Cena blocks a punch, as he then suplexes Cody off the table to the concrete floor. And after hurling Cody into the ring post, Cena just powerbombs him onto the steel steps. Cody is out. So Cena strolls into the ring and grabs the sledgehammer before going back to the outside and hammering away at Cody Rhodes. Though eventually he stops, as he wants to AA Cody through the another announcer's table, but Cody fights out of it and he plants the leader of the C Nation with a big time pedigree. Then he puts Cena back onto the announcer's table and puts him through it with a big brain buster. And whilst he's out, Cody grabs the table, putting it into the ring and putting it into the corner. And once he throws Cena into the ring, he looks to put him through the table. Yet Cena counters and drops Rhodes before locking in an STFU. Cody has nowhere to go, but he won't give up on his dream. His American dream, as after fighting out the submission and crawling to his feet, he punches Cena over and over again until finally, after lots of teasing, he nails the bionic elbow. Then he manages to put Cena through the table, and from here, Rhodes grabs the chair and brings it into the ring. But he puts it down as he wants to Cody cutter Cena, yet this ends in catastrophe as Cody doesn't land the cutter and he lands on the chair, leading to the beginning of the 5 moves of doom, as after back-to-back shoulder tackles, he nails a spinning suplex. And I think you all know what comes next, as after a 5-knuckle shuffle, Cena AA's Rhodes on top of the chair. But Cody Rhodes somehow kicks out, and in Cena's desperation, he unhooks the turnbuckle pads before bloodying the American Nightmare up through stiff punches left, right and centre. And Cody crawls at the exact same corner that's exposed, although he's able to fight back and smash Cena's skull against the exposed metal. Then he connects not 1 crossroads, not 2 crossroads, but 3 crossroads, back to back to back on the steel chair. Yet this trinity just can't do the trick. Cody can't believe it, so he goes berserk, grabbing the steel chair and unleashing it on John Cena just like Stone Cold did to The Rock at WrestleMania 17. And once he's done, he goes into the cover, and just like that, just like at that show, the opponent stays down for the 3. Cody Rhodes has done it. he has saved wrestling, and that's because he didn't hesitate, he didn't let up, he showed his vicious side, a side we may start to see more of in the near future. Though that's the future, we're in the present, and Cody Rhodes has just won the WWE Championship. But what's next for both men? Well, we're just gonna have to wait and see. As if you like this story, I think this might interest you.